Okay, today I'm going to do a little talking about what I use for dies. I use nothing but reddings now. I really like the redding dies, and today I'm going to go over the difference between a redding full-length bushing die and a regular redding full-length die. Okay, when you buy a standard die from Redding, full-length die, basically this is what you get. It has a stem here that has a decapper pin in it and everything. And then I always take those out. I use that in a separate process, but it has this thing called an expander. Now what happens when you size the case is you run the case up inside the die. As it comes in, a fired case is going to be bigger diameter than the expander, so it's going to bypass it altogether. It goes up inside the die. It sizes the body down, gives you your shoulder setback, your shoulder bump, and it also sizes the neck down way further than it needs to go. Now when you pull it back out of the press, the expander, the inside of the neck, rubs on this expander, and the expander, its job is to do nothing but put the diameter of the inside of the neck where it needs to be. So basically what you're doing is you fire the case and the diameter shoots out, and then you run it in here and it squeezes it way down, and then when you pull it back through, the expander pushes it back out where it needs to be. Now you're working the brass a lot there, and you don't really have any options unless you have the skill and the machinery to change the diameter of your expander. You don't really have any options for how far, what the diameter of that neck's going to be when you're done. The other problem that you could run into is when you pull it back through, this expander, is actually pulling on the neck of the cartridge. If you don't have an even amount of lubrication on the inside of the neck, or if there's some dirt in there or carbon buildup or whatever, or your expander isn't really smooth, you can get some variation in there as far as diameter and as far as how much force it takes to pull it back through the die. Now that can cause some concentricity problems. When you fire the cartridge, that's about as straight as that case is going to be, and the only thing you can do is screw it up when you size it. So you want to be careful on how you do that. And you can set up a die in your press to make sure that it stays straight. So sometimes what will happen is you'll get your die set up so it's perfectly straight going through the die, and then when you pull it back over that expander button, it actually bends the case a little bit. Now, it can be argued on how much that matters. A lot of my rifles, they could care less. I mean, I've shot ammo that has 5 or 6 thousandths run out in the cases, and they still shoot under a half a minute. So it's something to think about. But the biggest thing with the full-length die is it works the neck of the brass a lot. And it starts work hardening it and everything. And you get to a point where you almost have to do some kind of annealing to make the tension on the bullet the same case after case after case, firing after firing. So I don't even use these anymore. I've gone to nothing but bushing dies. And the biggest difference in a bushing die is that it doesn't squeeze down the diameter of the neck too small. It doesn't, in other words, it basically doesn't even touch that neck when you come up through and do a sizing deal. So you can take out these pieces in the bushing die and do nothing but size bodies in this die. What you do when you do the bushing part of it is they have interchangeable bushings. They're all numbered, and that corresponds to the inside diameter of the bushing. So that's a 292. This is a 288. I use this with my Remington brass. The Lapua brass I'm doing right now, I'm using a 293 bushing. And the way you come up with that number is you take a loaded round and you measure the outside diameter of the neck with the bullet seated in the brass, and then you subtract however many thousandths of neck grip you want to get. So the Lapua brass is pretty thick. It's known for its spring back and everything. So I went with 1/1000th and a half on it. So basically, I ended up with a 2.945 measured round. I averaged it out on a couple of them. So I ordered a 293 bushing. So that's giving me about 1.5 thousandths of difference in the inside neck diameter to the outside diameter of the bullet. It worked really well. I like it. It gave me great accuracy and pretty good ES, so I'm just going to keep running with it. But basically that's the difference. And when I get a bushing die, I just take this out. Basically, all you need this for is to decap, take your primers out, spent primers out. I do that in a whole nother process and a whole nother press just to keep the carbon and junk out of my main press. So when I'm done, all I have is a bushing. I've got a full-length bushing die. Drop the bushing you want in there. Take this piece that came off of the decapper rod, drop it back down in there because that's the only thing that'll hold the bushing in. And then I just run the top screw down until it bottoms on the bushing and back it off about 1/8 of a turn and lock the ring. And that leaves just a little bit of play in the bushing so it can self-center in there. Now another thing, I really like Redding dies, but their lock rings suck. You know, this is a set screw, and inside is a chunk of threads that comes in and actually jams against the thread of the die body. It's really hard to micro adjust it like that. If you run that screw in there and then don't bring it back out enough, I mean, it's really difficult to micro adjust. So I replace all of them with these Hornady lock rings, and it just clamps around the outside of the body and has a hex head screw for tension. So you can just loosen that and then you can micro adjust it real easy. So anyway, that's what I use now for Redding bushing dies, and I really like them.